Hi everybody, my name is Renee and I'm going to start out with explaining each lesson to you in the lesson plans. So for the elementary one, I chose a lesson on should animals be kept in zoos. Now this is a writing activity, so the students, it's for 3rd or 4th graders, and the students are asked to read information on text about animals and zoos and write an essay and answer the question. Explain your reasons and answers support the opinion with evidence from the text. Now by text they mean the text that the lesson plan provides. So it provides many links to different videos and different articles and PDF files about zoos and what people think of zoos and the different science behind it. The lesson plan provides a rubric for grading the essays for the teachers, and it provides the background the teacher should provide in a lecture. So the background that says it needs to be provided is more about zoos and about, how people feel about animals being enclosed in zoos. Now here's the specific task that the lesson provides and different activities for the students to do. So it provides many writing activities, obviously, because it's a writing prompt. So it asks you to do a quick write, list responses to the prompt, read, learn vocabulary, note-taking, and then how to actually write in the writing process. Now for elementary students, it's our responsibility as teachers to more so hold their hands than we would other grade levels, because at this point they're just learning how to develop a great essay and how to start that fundamental skill. So we need to be there to teach them how to do it correctly and how to use grammar and structure and all that good stuff. And it's the student's responsibility to pay attention and to understand the prompt and to understand how to organize an essay. And for elementary, it's more so lecture than anything, because we're more teaching them than we would in other grade levels. And for this particular module, there was a lot of activities. So the primary method of instruction for this lesson plan was lecture and activities. So the students, write the essay, and then there's also student samples provided in the lesson plan to show the students and teach them with different samples. Moving on to the middle school, I chose a lesson on atomic fission and atomic bombs. It provides an overview, and it's for grades 6 through 8. So the specific task that the lesson calls for is to research by using internet sources an essay in which you define atomic fission and explain how the Manhattan Project turned the science of fission into powerful weapon technology. Now, at this point in the learning, the students know how to write an essay. They know how to formulate an essay. So we don't so much have to help them in that sense as teachers, but it's more a responsibility to make sure they're doing research correctly, because they're familiar with it, but they don't have it stapled into their brains yet. So it's not so much a lecture for us rather than interactive work with each other as student and teachers. So an example of that would be in the lessons to, have them write a list of questions they have about it, and for us as a class to answer them together. At this point, like I said, they're learning how to research better, so extracting evidence, they're learning how to annotate text and draw questions from the text to answer the main question they're trying to answer about atomic fission. And the lesson plan just provides more in-depth lessons and in-depth activities we can do with our students to teach them these fundamental skills that they need moving on to high school. And on top, up higher, it provided a list of resources that we could hand out to the students, different links for them to do their research on. So, they're not totally lost when it comes to research, because at this point, they still aren't really familiar with what an appropriate internet source is and what's inappropriate. So we're still trying to teach them this. The primary method of instruction for this lesson was cooperative learning and activities. I think that the lessons that they provided had a lot of group work and a lot of student-on-student help, which is great for middle school because at that point they're all about making friends and stuff, so why not learn together? And there's a lot of activities. Less lecture, because at this point they know how to write an essay, so we don't really need to teach them that. We're just teaching them how to research and draw things from history. Like in elementary school, they just had to answer the question, but at this point in middle school, now they have to answer the question and draw from historical events and history to further explain what they're trying to explain. Now for high school, I chose a lesson on nuclear sustainability. It's for grade 11. The task that they need to complete is to answer the question, is nuclear energy sustainable? They need to read several sources from articles in their chemistry book and write an op-ed in which you address the question. And the difference between here and any other grade level is now, instead of just drawing research, conducting an essay, now they have to make an argument for their point, which is more advanced than we've seen. Here's a list of text that the lesson plan provides, and this is for more sources for the students to look at, but it's not limited to these sources. Like middle school and elementary was. They can draw information from this and look for more sources through the internet by themselves because they're more independent at this point. Here's the specific activities that they can do as we can do as a class, like writing Cornell notes, learning about atomic models and doing a short response about it, learning about all the nuclear reactions and radioactivity and half-lives. Then we're going to brainstorm and develop an essay. At this point, they should know how to develop an essay, a thesis, and be pretty advanced at it and know the difference between introduction, body, paragraphs. So we don't really need to hold their hand on that. Same with the research. They should understand how to look up different websites. At 11th grade, you should know how to look up different websites and understand what's appropriate and non-appropriate. So us as teachers, we're less responsible for lecturing, but more being there for when they do have questions and not holding their hand so much because they're more independent at this point. And for the students' responsibility, it's their responsibility to understand what they need to do and understand how to write an essay and how to research and how to do all these things on their own because they're 11th grade now. They only have 1 year until college. So they should know how to do all these things. And if they don't, then it's their responsibility to come to the teacher to ask for help. The primary learning methods for this particular learning plan was more, I think it was more activity because it wasn't a lot of collaborative work and it wasn't a lot of lecturing. It was more of an independent thing because at this point, the students should be independent and know how to do it all on their own. So the changes that I saw in the lesson plan at each level was, just the skills the students were expected to have. Like in elementary school, they weren't expected to know how to research, and they weren't expected to know how to put together a great essay. It was our responsibility as teachers to teach them that, so it was more lecturing and more hands-on activities and more collaborative work that way. What us as teachers should be doing at the elementary level is helping them and making sure they understand these skills because they're going to need them. For the middle school, the changes in lesson plan I saw was that they learned how to write an essay, but now they're learning how to not only write an essay, but draw research from not only the text given by the teachers, but from other resources like history, historical events, such as the Manhattan Project, like they were learning about in this specific lesson. The teacher what they're doing is they should be helping the students and making sure that they get it and they understand it, but at the same time, they should be letting them be more independent and work amongst each other because they need to understand it and learn how to figure it out for themselves, but be there when they really can't get it. And then for the high school, the changes I saw were not only did they understand how to research and understand how to put together an essay, but at this point, they're learning how to make an argument and form an argument for their case. And not only do they have to prove their point, but they have to discuss the other side of the argument and to make their argument even stronger. So the teacher's responsibility here is to not really, tell them what to do, because you can't really tell somebody how to write an essay they want to write. Our responsibility is to guide them into the right research, into the right argument, and to make sure they're not going down the wrong path with their argument. And the student is expected to understand how to form a correct argument, and how to write an essay, and how to do research. And if they don't, they should come to us as teachers and ask us what to do. I think my favorite lesson plan out of all of them was the middle school one on atomic fission, because it provided several resources for the students. It was very hard for the student to get lost in research. It showed everything that it needed to show. It talked about the Manhattan Project, which is one of my favorite history lessons, and it calls for the students to advance their writing skills by creating lists, annotating text, creating questions for themselves, asking themselves different things about the text, so that's advancing their analytical skills. They're learning how to conduct research. They're learning to connect ideas and organize an essay, which I think is very important and very interesting, because all of these lessons were science lessons, but they weren't only science lessons. They drew together history. They drew together writing skills, which is essential for students. They can't only be learning text, facts from a science book. They need to apply it to writing and to analyzing. So that's it. Thank you for listening.